Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Jackie Glass, a mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the Lastoff legislator for the House of Delegates 93rd District. So grateful to be here with y'all this morning. Let's get it. Look, we about to get it. Yo, Instagram, get yourself together because you know it take a minute for that to happen. It is Thursday, so what is Thursday? We're back at it. I feel like we were just here with each other, right? Weren't we just doing this last week? But for real, so I definitely want to take some time to get some orders of business out of the way. I am uh, on the downhill with getting prepared for session. We go back in January. Um, Life is going to start going bam, 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 bam. I know it's like that for y'all too, because this is the end of we're in the fourth quarter. And I know that's wild to say that this year has given us a whole lot of stuff. But we will be soon announcing when we're going to have a town hall with the entire delegation before we go back to sessions. So be on the lookout for that. If you have ideas, know that I have by the state a November 20 something. I keep wanting to say 25th and it's 21st, or 21st and 25th. The two dates are mixing me up, but the week of November 20th, before November 20th, I need to have all my legislation. And so if you've got an idea that you just want drafted, you just want to see the language, then, make sure you get that our way, because that's something that's important to us. Even if you want to use that language just to work on something for the next year, I've done that, had things drafted, and I know I'm not going to take them, but I took that language and I held on to it for the sake of being able to if I'm not bringing it forth to the General Assembly, I can all that next year say, here's some draft language we got last year. This is what we're thinking about doing, because I can't even, I'm still waiting on some drafts, and I feel like I'm saying drafts and I'm not really saying anything to y'all. So what it is I take an idea and I give it to the lawyers so that they can put together the language of how it would go in the code. So for instance, we have a bill on autonomous vehicles. Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about autonomous vehicles, but I know that there's some liability and some safety things that I think we need to do. I send it to the lawyer, say, hey, here's kind of what we want to do. Here's what it's based off of. Can you draft something up so that I could start working with partners like the Department of Transportation and the port people and all these different people? So November is my working deadline. So if you got ideas and you want to start, you want to have them in hand, go ahead and let us know. Good morning to everyone. Good morning, Miss Charlene. Good morning, Mr. Little. Good morning, Kristen. On top of that, we next week are going to be having another Kicks and Cocktails. I know that is not posted. That is on me. So next Tuesday at the High Cup, we're going to be doing our Kicks and Cocktails. So it's really just, I feel like it's like a doer meetup. I just love to see people get connected, or that are in different worlds, that find that there's something that they have commonality on. It's a micro fundraiser. We really don't try to make a whole lot of money off it, but it is an opportunity for you to come, connect, and move forward. So that is next. Make sure I'm getting it right. That's next Tuesday at the High Cup at at 5:30. So 5:30 to 7:30 thereabouts. All right, so this is a big deal too. First off, and if you have never been able to come to a fundraiser, but you appreciate the work we do, please consider donating. You can go to deliajackieGlass.com and make a contribution. Put us in your budget. Like $10 a month. Just put us in your budget because you like the work that we do and you want us to keep being able to do it. So with that, what was going to say? This afternoon, I will be a part of a panel, and I was actually looking for the details on it, but I'm going to just use my calendar because I didn't see the flyer or anything. So way back when, I don't know if y'all know of the thing. Anybody heard of Seneca Falls? You heard of Seneca Falls? Uh, you never heard of Seneca Falls? So there's this organization called Represent Women. You ready? Um, Represent Women is hell bent on just understanding the political sides for women in politics. And so they put out a lot of data on, voting reform and what it looks like to have women engaged in the political world. And it's tough. That is super important to understand the data of those sorts of things. And I'll understand that how we can help orgs and people help more women be participatory in the process. So they're doing this throwback thing today I did I say it? Today at 2:00. Yes, today at 2. Today at 2, it's online. I will put the Zoom link in the chat. And remember, if you got questions, comments, concerns, it don't gotta be about nothing I'm talking about, but you can go ahead and put that in the chat as well. But they're doing this callback to the Seneca Falls Convention. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was the first I had heard of it. That I'm like, again, I like history. So Seneca Falls Convention was back in 1848. It was the first women's rights convention in the United States. And it has been sometimes regarded as the beginning of the women's rights movement. It took place in Seneca Falls, New York, and was organized by Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Lucretia Mott. It was aimed at addressing social, civil, and religious rights. So the significance of it is that eventually it led to the 19th Amendment, and they got together just to talk about women's property rights. Women's property rights, legal and social structures. It's and really hell-bent on the idea that we hold this truth to be evident that all men and women are created equal. I certainly sometimes hear our Constitution and wish that that we would consider updating the language. Just not even just as a woman, but as a Black person too, that there's so much that language matters so much. Just processing all of that. It matters so much. So my hope is that one day we'll go ahead and update what our Constitution says, so that it is representative of the today and not the yesterday. So at 2 p.m., I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the webinar in my in the post. I know on Instagram you probably won't be able to get to it. However, if you go to Represent Women, there should be a flyer, and I'll write that organization in here, Represent Women, and I'll be on there with a couple of the women in the political sphere, just doing all the things, right? Just trying to have those sorts of conversation. On top of that, we are now in the last 2 weeks of elections. And I know that if you haven't already done so, I'm going to encourage people to early vote, but I told you, I go election day with my daughter. That's just how we choose to do business. But there has been a lot of news. And I know last week we talked about some of the things that are happening in the news. The unfortunate thing is Virginia is in the midst of several different lawsuits, right? So you've got the DOJ suing the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then you've got, I believe the state just did a countersuit. And then you've got the city of, I think, Waynesboro. And I'm about to check it out. Because I'm catching up on my news as well. And again, if you have anything you feel like I need to know, or that questions that you have, drop them in the comments. That's what this is for. Hold on. The city of, I believe it's Waynesboro, that just sued. So there's going to be, I don't know that on election day. My hope is that we don't go through the process where we don't have our results for ever. And then that leads into the new year, because that's a real thing. But I also wanted to take some time to do some Norfolk specific news because everybody and their mama sent these to me. Did y'all see about the flock cameras in the news recently about the lawsuit for the flock cameras? And first of all, have y'all heard of flock cameras? Does anybody know what a flock camera is? Anybody? Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat. So why is this relevant? Over what I did back 2 years ago, I started, right before this last session, I started working on some legislation that would make it so that remember I talked about guardrails and regulations. Where's their liability? Where do we regulate? Where do we regulate? That makes sense for like all the things. And I'm trying to put all the pieces together. So I started to do some legislation on flock cameras, and I don't think anybody know what flock camera. Not anybody should say flock camera. What is a flock camera? Nobody knows. I promise you've interfaced with them. You know. I'm looking in the chat, and I'm checking. All right, what's a flock camera? Y'all see, I'm trying to get this girl out the door too. No. Okay, Lamont, perfect. Okay, flock camera. He says the cameras that follow you through the city. Yes. Okay, the robot cameras. The robot cameras. I love that, Kristen, on Instagram. So absolutely, both of them are right. Flock cameras are we call them automated license plate readers, or APLRs, or yeah. And they have become the center of controversy in our city. The cameras capture images of your license plates, and sometimes the police, a lot of times, law enforcement use that to monitor areas and crime rates, and to if a car, stolen cars, they can track where they go. There's a lot of different uses for the flock cameras. Y'all know this is my jam because I do a lot of work on police and policing technologies. But like I said, a summer ago, we were working with several organizations, and actually a Republican member, to figure out how we can marry what it looks like for localities and people to use with some sort of guardrails. Our thought was like, hey, if there should not be a way for anybody to automatically access that information. There should at least be a warrant of some sort, unless there is an Amber Alert, or unless there are certain conditions. There shouldn't be anybody just tracking that data. We saw that because of what happened with the young lady out in California, where the Virginia police officer, I think he was state police, I don't want to give anybody a bad name, but there was an officer here that drove all the way to with a girl online, drove all the way to California or something, and it was just wild. Now, that was social media, and there was a lot of different things there, but we do recognize that there are in this world, there are people who move with integrity, and there are people who move without integrity. And then there are people who have integrity that it gets compromised depending on the stressful situation. That's no different from teaching police officers. Come on, name another thing. I'm saying those two because we put a high level of stress on those two professions. Doctors, lawyers, people that work in construction, right? When people take shortcuts in the military, we call it gun decking, right? When you taking a shortcut, pretending like you do something. But this is not just gun decking or not trying to cheat the system, but this is really just about privacy. And so this lawsuit in Norfolk stems from the privacy concerns and the constitutional access of the use of those flock cameras. So there is some people that absolutely agree that it amounts to mass surveillance and violates people's Fourth Amendment protections. Who knows what the Fourth Amendment is? Tell me, what is the Fourth Amendment? Put it in the chat, smarty pants. Put it in the chat for smarty pants. I know somebody out there know it. All right. So And so in Norfolk, the case, there is a case in circuit court that ruled to suppress evidence obtained by the flock system in the case of a robbery, because it cites that there's extensive surveillance network creating it's like a dragnet that overreached the constitutional boundaries for that particular person. And so what happens when I didn't even check to see if somebody knew what the Fourth Amendment was. What's the Fourth Amendment? Hold on. Oh, Brian Daniel, illegal search and seizures. Let me put your stuff up there. Show. Kristen too, as well. Illegal search and seizures. Absolutely. Good morning, Candy. I didn't even see you there. Where does it end? Right. So I get you, right? I totally understand that, Kristen, that sometimes you have to ask yourself, where does it end? But this decision could really reshape how that ALPR technology is used in Virginia, and potentially influence this broader legislative action on surveillance technologies. What happens for us in the General Assembly, most times we don't legislate a idea or a process or anything when it's in the courts. And I'm asking you, why do you think that's so? Why do you think that we wouldn't legislate something if it's tied up in the courts? But for those of you all, as I wait for answers on that, as you process that, why would we not legislate on actions, ideas, or policies that are in the court? Okay, so looking at the Fourth Amendment, which the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects citizens like you and me from unreasonable search and seizures by the government. And so it establishes that law enforcement has to or must generally have a warrant, probable cause, before conducting a search and seizure on property, and that ensures the whole privacy and the limits of governments don't overreach or prevent arbitrary or invasive actions. I'm actually looking at this word dragnet because I didn't know what it was. So what is that? Dragnet refers to the broad and sweeping method of law. Oh, so let's learn a new word today, y'all. Dragnet, it says in the lawsuit, or in the article for the lawsuit, it says that the flock system and the extensive surveillance network created a dragnet that overreached the constitutional boundaries. First, I'm going to see if there's any answers as to why. Okay, so Miss Charlene says the Dillon rule is why we don't do that. Candy said we have to catch up the technology. I agree. So Kristen says it complicates things. Yeah. Candy says, Monday King says, I'm so old. I remember Dragnet. Yeah. I only know Dragnet as the name of a TV show. That's all right, y'all. We're going to learn today. So, because I'm out of it. All right. So then, actually, did I read the whole thing? Yep. I was going to read the exact Fourth Amendment. See you, Pumpkin. You make it a great day. Set your intentions. So dragnet refers to, and when I say dragnet, it's DRAGNET, dragnet, and I'll put that in the chat. So it refers to the broad and sweeping method by law enforcement and intelligence gathering, where authorities can collect massive amount of data or surveil large groups of people discriminately in an attempt to catch someone involved in criminal activity, right before it even happens, just attempting. And this approach often refers to invasive surveillance of individuals who have no connection to any criminal act, right? Raise concerns again about the Fourth Amendment protections. And so in this flock camera lawsuit, that term dragnet is used to describe how the ALPRs, or automated license plate readers, interchangeable, captures data on nearly all the vehicles that pass its cameras, effectively surveilling the entire population indiscriminately, right? Without discrimination. They're not just looking at the bad guys, they're looking at everyone. So again, people on some side of it argue that that creates a constant monitoring system that violates the constitutional rights and privacy rights and is an overreach of police powers. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? And so let me hit on the piece that I talked about of why we don't legislate when we have things that are in the courts. The courts can decide. I mean, the courts can help guide us, right? You said precedent. Absolutely. She already put it, because the courts can set a precedent of how we ruled on things previously. And we don't, to Kristen's, those of you guys on all the other stuff, Kristen's on Instagram. So, y'all can't cross over, but I would put this Kristen.Wheeler77 says that when we start to, make a law on things while in the middle of the court, it can complicate things because it can, make that case go one way or the other. And that's not our job. We're not the judicial branch of government. Our job is not to rule on the court cases, but it is to set forth the guidelines, the policies, and the understanding of the court. And sometimes we make laws based off what we've learned in the court. And sometimes the court makes decisions based off of the actions that we do. Most times they do, right? So absolutely. Precedent. And Kristen.Wheeler.77 said it's a bad precedent. It's growth. I'd love to know your thoughts. Candy Monday King says, I struggle with this. The LPRs, that's another way you can say it, license plate readers or ALPRs, so that y'all know, can be extremely helpful in trafficking and other crimes against children, but at what cost? I think that's most people, right? We kind of talked about that, how policing technology is super important. It's important that we advance, but even technology has its own bias and its own cost to it. And that's kind of our role sometimes as folks in the legislature to look at and talk to y'all, right? As the people that we interface with, have a conversation with you about, like, all right, here's what we're gonna have to decide, because I'm sure if this case gets ruled on, and I don't know what the dates are set for, but it'll guide what the General Assembly decides to do around, because as Kristen.Wheeler77 said, precedent. It'll set a precedent by which we can legislate to. Last session, we had 2 separate bills on license plate readers. Before I get into that, hold up. I see we had 2 separate bills that were, it was contentious, right? Trying to figure out, especially as Candy Monday King says, is that we have to also acknowledge that there is value to having these things, having technology in the workforce. The same with AI. We can't, everyone looked at Google and was like, yo, it's going to tear the school system apart. It's going to make people dumber. Has it made some? Absolutely. That both can be true. It can both be a good and bad thing. But as Candy Monday King said on Instagram, is that, look, technology has its limits. I like to ask, where are the human touch point and what are the human factors that we're using as we put technology more into our lives, right? Where are the human touch points? Because here is the truth, right? And this is why last year I brought a bill about licensing certain technology as it regards to AI and things like that with the DPOR. DPOR does all of our occupational certification and regulation is that we can't turn to the technology and hold the technology accountable. I'm gonna tell y'all a funny story. We can't turn to the technology and tell it like, yo, we're gonna sue the technology. There has to be an end user. And I don't mean the word sue as like the worst negative case scenario, but there's gotta be a human factor in it. At least that is Delegate Jackie Glass's opinion, is that's what I want to know. Where does the human step in and do some reasoning? It reminds me of when I was an instructor in the Navy down in Pensacola, Florida. I was charged with it's 300 students that are waiting. We call it class up. They've come straight from boot camp and they're waiting to go into school so they can learn their trade, or they're coming from school back to us because they're waiting for their next session of school. So it's like a holding pattern. And you get a lot of young people that have not necessarily learned or haven't gained the discipline to be where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be. And I remember this one time, this kid kept saying, Petty Officer Jackson, I asked him why he was late. He was like, I was late. My alarm clock made me late, and da da da. And, this is cell phones were kind of the thing. Yeah, cell phones, definitely. They had cell phones, probably not using them the same way that we do. But I was like, really? Your alarm clock made you late? Well, damn, who we gonna hold accountable? I mean, because what you're telling me is I can't hold you accountable because it's your alarm clock's fault, correct? It's like, well, yeah, it didn't wake me up. I said, go get your alarm clock and come back to my office. Go get it. And he's looking at me. I said, go get your alarm clock. We got to hold somebody accountable. I told him, go get his alarm clock. He comes back. I said, well, we're going to cancel this alarm clock, right? Because I'm going to have to put this alarm clock on report if it keeps doing this to you. And he's looking confused. And I say, yeah, that shit sounds crazy, doesn't it? Like, you have to take some responsibility. And that same thing goes for technology, is that while we have it and it is within our use, we still have to have a way to have accountability for not only how it interfaces with us, but the people around us, because it is a rippling effect and there's a slippery slope. But yes. That's what this reminds. When I think of technology, and clocks were technology, y'all. Okay, clocks were technology. All right, at one point or another. Okay, yes. Uncle Wheeler said also, how much money are these programs costing taxpayers, and how much are the contractors making? There's a factor of that too. With the flock cameras, it's more so. I don't know that is a. Yeah, it still costs taxpayer, but how much are departments? That would be the question, is what are the departments spending on these sorts of things? That money's always spent. And like I said, I know that in Norfolk, I was super curious over the past year about the flock cameras and what they were doing in our city, and got a lot of information about the recovery of stolen cars was one of the biggest things, because that's a huge thing that we see in our backyard. So Kristen Weir said, oh, human factors. You just hit my soft spot. Yes, we got to have human factors, y'all. And she says, I'm so glad you're our delegate. Sensibility isn't dead. I mean, we got to make some sense, y'all. We got to make a little sense. So let's wrap this, right? Let's get this together, because we're at 7:30. If you have a community event or anything going on, please drop in the chat so that I can say it for the good of the order. And then I can tell you about what my weekend looks like, and hope to see you sometime this weekend, maybe. Hold on, in 2000, I'm looking for something, because I definitely wanted to, in 2024, so I definitely wanted to, at the very minimum, talk a little bit, a tiny bit about, hold on, legislation. I'm looking for the legislation real quick, because I know there were two in the General Assembly. While I do that, this weekend, I will be in the homecoming parade. Y'all, I feel like every time I'm in the homecoming parade, I made it. Like, I just made it. Okay. I love being able to interact with people, and it's the best part. It's that whole idea of kissing babies and all that stuff. Kissing babies and stuff. So on flock, y'all bear with me, because the thing is messing with me. ALPRs. Messing with me, sending with me. Okay. All right. But yeah, I will be doing that this weekend. Also, we're supposed to have our all ski skeet this weekend. Did not do the things that I needed to do to make sure that it is it went off with a hitch. But we will do all ski where you can go ski shooting with us, and we'll go from there. So last thing on this ALPR thing, just to put a bow on that, in the 2024 session, we had a couple legislative extras that were introduced in here about ALPRs or LPRs. We had legislation on regulating the use of technology, particularly focused on that data storage. That's something, and shared practices. Some bills, they were proposed restrictions on how long law enforcement can retain the data, and the ways that it can be used to address the whole privacy concerns. And that was last year, right? So now we're still, playing this game. There is also, to someone's point here about, we went through this with speed cameras. I don't know if you know this, but last year, I think 2023, there was a lawsuit about the speed cameras, and the third party and automated justice. And if a third party is just shooting a ticket, how does someone get their day in court? So there's also the ongoing discussion about how do we limit third party vendors like Flock Safety from collecting and storing license plate data indefinitely, or sharing it with other states for non-legal purposes. That is important too, because the argument that I had, and I remember I went against the flock bill that we ended up going with, because I had a long summer of 2023 having conversations with industry, with tech, with all kinds of people, with the civil liberties folks, everything. So I talked to Democrats, I talked to Republicans, I talked to libertarians, I'm talking to everybody about it. And one thing I think we all kind of understood, or didn't, what I don't think got translated in the long run, is I went to Flock Safety's website and took a look at not just where the technology is now, but where they're trying to go with it, right? And that's also important, is looking at, we have to be having communications about, yes, right now it sits as an ALPR, but in the future, with a little software update, there are other things. And I don't want to do the scare that the idea of mass surveillance is real, right? Like it's not an idea, it's a real thing. But the ability to upgrade those devices to do other things then shifts what we originally came to the table on. And I think that's also problematic if we're not saying how you are growing your company to expand the capabilities of not just reading license plates. We talked to a professor at ODU about Flock and about the whole system, and he told us that we were going to do, actually, we decided not to do it. I didn't have the bandwidth, but we were going to ask him to do, like, not a hackathon, but a summit where his students could literally build an ALPR network out of iPhones and sticks, right? Like, could, with the way AI is, could just do that. So the everyday person is able to do these sorts of things and then advance it a bit. So we know that the companies are doing it as well. So I raise concerns, everything from racial profiling to civil liberties with the technologies, that bias of AI as they grow themselves into other things, while saying these absolutely can be valuable crime solving and tools and improve safety, public safety, while worrying about the misuse. So I hold both of those things in my hands, and hopefully as this year progresses, some of the legislative discussions will probably continue. But if this case is in the court, I doubt that we make any movements. But we have to strike a balance between public safety and protecting individual rights, and that's something that we hold in our hands, and that's tough, y'all. That's tough. That's asking a lot, and I think we do our very, very best. Okay. So that's my take on that. That's my take. I'll do a last little bit and then we'll get our butts out of here. Okay. You got any bills up on this year? No, I do not. I do have some bills on autonomous agents and autonomous vehicles, but not this. I chose this past session. I worked that bill the entire summer of 2023, and I felt like it was not ready. I'm not bringing no bill forth that is not, like, it was not ready. So that's why I was almost shocked, like, with all the work that we did for our ALPR bill, I was so shocked that anybody was bringing legislation forth, because there was so much. And I'm even talking about encryption, right? We even had conversations, and I'm gonna nerd out for a second, about homomorphic encryption and how you can automatically, so for me as a former cryptologist, I'm also looking at is when you access that data, you can say, and I know that it can be tracked, right? Like, I know it can be tracked of who accesses when, but then you get access to all of that data when you only need this small piece. So what what is it on that side that will allow us to only encrypt or decrypt the information needed rather than giving an officer or detective or whomever access to the entirety of that database? So we were also talking with Microsoft and other folks about what are the encryption techniques, or can we set a standards by which they would have to encrypt their data so that the access point was not a big one, that it was a narrow scope. And we know that the people that have need to get access to do the crime solving, to do whatever, are just getting that data and not inadvertently or purposely seeing other stuff, because that's the thing. So I don't have any builds. Behold, yes, I'm so ready for the parade. I cannot wait to see y'all. Please, I'm just like, oh, this weekend, oh. Wealthy risings. I love that. Very important. So vendors are secretive even when they come with their names. Virginia, yes. Ballot vendors, yes. Precedent. We got this. Queen Rising says, I want to know how to keep our schools safer. I hired an attorney and still can't get a call back from the superintendent about guns in Booker T. Queen Rising, you need to contact us. Okay. I'm not even playing. So I'm going to put my office's number. You're probably going to get Jay. And then you need to reach out to us. Well, I'm putting the number in the chat right now. 1293. All right. Yeah. Cause that's, I'm where I can be with the schools right now. I cannot control them, but I am trying to influence the right things. And I do not believe that it's a surprise that you can't get a call back from the superintendent. Did you, and I'll ask you a couple of questions about, did you, proper channels. We don't just go straight to the superintendent. I'm saying this, I imagine that you worked the process, but let's go ahead and get connected so we can, get some movement. Okay. How do we know Flock won't exploit us for their own profit? We don't. So that's what Kristen says. We don't know. We don't know. We genuinely don't know. Okay. We just don't. Which is why, we try to have good people in the process. All right. So Kiana, I love it. You're going to be canvassing. Let's get it. Get it. Who you canvassing for? You can tell us in the chat. Lamont says, Lamont has access to Ski Ridge. Want to start youth learn team. Would you like to talk? Oh, would like to talk to you with, yes, I'm here for it. I love skeet shooting. It is so fun. I go every other Sunday. I try to go every other Sunday with my spouse. And absolutely, we are working on getting young people access to different types of things. So be on the hot standby for being able to go skeet shooting. We're going to take some young people to a rugby game, just things that are just not the usual here, right? It's exposure. It's opportunity, experience. I was in Southwest Virginia the other day talking to a senator who sits on the other side of the aisle, and it don't even matter. But we were talking about public schools education, and they're having some of the same issues that we're having. He's having out in Shenandoah Valley. And he was saying, like they just had a student that killed his girlfriend's mother, right? Like that was real. And the community feels that. And the question is how do we not throw these kids away, but provide them? What I love is the sincerity. What he said to me, he's like, Jackie, I don't have the answers. I don't even know what the answer is, but like, why can't we take them on more field trips, give them more experiences? And I was like, that is a part of it. So I believe in that. And I'm definitely percolating in my mind about how do we work with our rural partners who see and feel a lot of the same challenges. Maybe we can get some kids out to his barn, which is really dope. He has a dairy barn and a chicken farm, and like just providing these real experiences to trouble the narrative about who our kids are and what their possibilities are and the experiences that they see. Yeah. Oh, he said you had a youth ski stream before the pandemic. That is awesome. I'm here with it. You let me know. You know how to get me. All right. So got it. I've gone twice. Would love to do it again. Would love to have you there. I'm here to help any way I can. You can't do it alone. Faux show. That goes both ways. So On the flip side, we've been here for 8 minutes longer than we're supposed to. I will hopefully see y'all in these streets. Remember, if you believe in the work we do, consider contributing to us at delegatejackieglass.com. It is the way I keep my staff. It is the way I pay for the utility, for the tools, parts, and materials to execute these things. Put us in your budget. Even if it's for like $25 a month, just put us in your budget. We appreciate it. And every little bit counts. That's downtown programs they've used before. Okay, sorry, I'm reading what programs they have to save our youth before they reach out to the system. They have nothing, and we have to interject ourselves in there. I've worked with court involved youth through Young Investors Group, which is an amazing group that really works with high crime, high poverty area students, and also mixing the high crime and the not so high crime together to build relationships, the economic diversification and experiences. So yeah, but we've had to go to the court with that young person, right? So yes, we've got to also put ourselves in a place where where people know about the good work that's happening, because there is good work happening with youth services and things like that here. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get moving. Long day ahead. If you're interested in the Represent Women Seneca Falls, today at 2 p.m., I will be on a panel talking about, don't give me a line, I think it's about my experience in government. I'm better clutch, right? I am a primetime kind of worker. This evening, I will be launching for my day job the Portsmouth leg of The Truth Be Told, Virginia. If you haven't checked it out, the podcast series, that's my day job, Truth Be Told, Virginia. It's a walking audio tour of historically Black spaces, faces, and places. We've done Virginia Beach and Norfolk. Portsmouth is getting ready to get released, and then Newport News is going to be released. So if you're into that kind of thing, they're little short stories about people in these respective cities, right? Because you are history. You are a history maker right now. All right, then. Until next time, y'all, I'm Jackie Glass, Mama, Navy vet, certified doer, and the laced up legislator for the House of Delegates 80. It's not 89, it's 93rd. Come on, girl, get it together. 93rd District. I look forward to seeing you. You know where to find me if you need me. And y'all just make it a great day, because it's your neighbor's favorite delegate. That's what I heard. I heard that I was your neighbor's favorite delegate. So am I your neighbor's favorite delegate? All right, see y'all. Bye. Be well.